Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. You've got your guy Howard Greenberg here with the CEO and founder of Quasar Markets and the guy that's been hitting home runs out of the park lately here on the show. Steve, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'll tell you, Howard. I've seen enough crap in the world right now to I just kind of want to hide in a bed somewhere and just pull the covers over. It feels like I said this morning. I just would like a little common sense in the world, just a little. I'm not asking for much, just a little. I
You
mean,
mentioned that yesterday as we were talking about the election and the actual almost cordial and proper way to have one that we saw in the vice presidents versus our when
yeah,
the presidents do it. So I know what you mean there. Lots of news to get to. The biggest, one I know the latest one is always the one everybody wants to talk about, jobs data. So I guess let's start right there. It was, a good one. What's your takeaways from it so far?
So there were a lot of numbers in there. I will tell you the two things that I'm looking at now is that what the Fed's going to do now, because they know they've been saying it for how long now, probably over 2 years, that labor is their biggest number they're looking at. Powell just said it this week, saying that he's also going to be looking at it's data dependent. Kept saying data dependent, and that they're not making a decision on rates until the actual meeting. Okay, well, shit. Because quite frankly, they're always in line. Yeah, I get it. The last one was 50 or 25, and one person dissented. They said 25. It became 50. Um, I will say this much: it's not 50 now; it's 25. The numbers came in fairly good. Labor participation was pretty good as well, and monthly and earnings also ticked up a little bit. Monthly earnings, so that's a good. Those are good numbers. But when it comes to cutting, you saw Bitcoin jump a little bit based on the good numbers, but fell almost immediately based on some selling there. Selling pressure, I think, was where people realized we're not cutting 50 basis points anymore. We're only cutting 25. But you're seeing buyers stepping right back in because there's so much money on the sidelines, right? We saw now where FedEx is now going to add the exact same number of people to work that did last year. So there's not more, not less. So what I call grinding through this, and it feels like a grind. It feels like a grind for like the last year in a lot of ways. But
Absolutely. I
yeah,
think I think you hit it on the board there with that grinding statement because what we've seen is while there was strong numbers released by Amazon and Target for holiday hiring, we're seeing that a lot of the non big box stores, as we'll call them, not putting as many people on or keeping it very level to last year, so not the increase that maybe they were hoping for. Seen a lot of analysts come out already saying Friday's job report was stronger than expected. It gives the Fed the flexibility to cut by 25 basis points now
yeah.
on November 7th, pause, and then decide what to do there. I did see FedWatch. I know you saw that was up on my screen here earlier. Has
Mm,
moved up to almost 70% in the basis of, or looking at that 25 basis point jump. So we're definitely seeing that echo. Like you said, Bitcoin, did jump back up here. So we're at, 61,750. Good spot here. I've mentioned in our Slack, I'm looking at it to hold above this 100-day simple moving average as a key spot here today. If we can close above that, I think we go well. QQQ liked what it saw from there, up about 1.31% here. Spies up close to a point. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I do every morning, Steve. Do we think today is going to be an up day or a down day? Or yesterday you weren't on. I said we're going to go sideways. I was right. So I actually got one while you were gone. So I kept our streak alive. I kept our
good.
streak alive.
Busy guy. Listen, no, I think we're gonna fade this all the way into the close. The sheer number and amount of options on today is just
Yeah.
staggering again. Um, I don't really understand the sheer amount of the options that are being played right now. Um, Options are being abused. It's okay. I understand that, but I also know that it hurts a lot of people too financially, and people are going to get absolutely crushed. And it's going to happen today again, and it's gonna be played out a little bit. It's happening around 2 o'clock when they start pulling those options out. What do I
I've
mean by that?
an interesting one for you on that. I was listening to some folks talk about options yesterday. It was a CME webinar, and one of the comments was that they actually like to see these retail users at least using options because there
Of
actually
course they
is.
do.
Well, yeah, not. I mean, it moves their business and it's easy money for
Okay,
them
I was like,
to take
that's how they
advantage.
get
But
paid.
let
Yeah.
me tell you the actual reason that I did sort of. I could see it from a psychological point. You have a fixed loss if you buy a call and it doesn't come in, and you paid whatever it was, $1.15. You know that you're in for that amount. You know what I mean? And it has a fixed one.
That's
So it's
like
an
buying. That's
interesting
like buying
concept. Like I
lottery
said, I just
tickets.
like to
And
bring up stuff that I hear that to me, is a little different than the way I've looked at it. But
look, I think my grandpa said it right. He said, look, if you go into gambler and you know how much money you have to gamble, and that's what it is, you lose it, then that's it, and you don't dig. And I understand that, right? And that's what's happening, right? They're buying lottery tickets and they're burning the lottery tickets, and
yeah.
uh, I'm okay with, I don't. The market itself is not a gambling machine, right? It is a
Yeah.
place to create wealth. It is a place to invest. It is a place to build. It is not a place to gamble. If you want
No,
to gamble, not a
Jay
problem.
Wood, nailed that one our interview this week, where he said, for him, he hates and will not discuss if someone says, "Should I double down here?" when they're in a losing bet. You can cost average.
That's right.
We're not a gambler. We're doing it. If your thesis is still there, sure, you can cost, basis down, but we never double down, when betting the market. So
He's right.
I
That's
definitely
right.
think that's important. Seeing treasuries 2 and 10 move up a little bit here, is that what we expected based on those employment numbers,
Of
Steve?
course, yeah. I mean, I went and got my hair cut yesterday. First thing out of everyone's mouth was, Steve, what are rates going to do? I want to buy a home. It's already hitting Main Street about rates coming down. I mean, I've been talking about rates coming down for a while now. That here we are. It's now happening. But I think we're going to kind of spread out a little bit. The twos and tens, for those of you who don't know, it's 2 year versus the 10 year. We were inverted for for a long time, meaning that the 10 year was below the 2 year, 2 years higher. That the inversion here straightened out a little bit, but honestly, oof, if you're going to borrow money, don't borrow money at 30 years, borrow it at 10, 15, because it's a lot better for you. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hit at the beginning. So I've said the same thing, said it last night, yesterday too. Wait, rates are going to come down even more. We know that Fed's saying it to you. They're telling you they don't think 50 is the right number. Some Fed members are saying that they need to be a little more aggressive, but I don't think that's the case. I think 25, because we know that once the Fed starts cutting, they're going to continue to cut, but they don't. They want to be nice and steady.
Yep.
50 basis points was a big wallop. As I said on Schwab, if it's 50, look out below. If it's 25, then we're right on track, and then and continue that path. And then I like
Yep.
that path. Yeah.
It's interesting because I had an article out that I was reading yesterday talking about seeing the widening chasm between what equity markets were pricing in and what fixed income markets were. We usually think fixed income, right, is the smart money. They were betting on that second half point rate. So I think there's some people in the bond markets a little surprised today. So I was interesting there because just, normally they tend to be the ones we consider smart money. Looks like
They
on
are.
this case they
They still
missed.
are smart money. I'm not gonna look. They're not wishful thinking people, right? They move. The stock market is very, very small compared to the bond market. If you look at the
Absolutely.
stock market, it's about $30 trillion. The bond market's in the quadrillions, right?
Yeah.
You look at the bigger money, bond market, the debt market, whether that's munis, municipalities, little cities, or you're talking about bigger bonds, federal governments around the world as well. They have to be a lot bigger, right? Because that's fixed income, meaning that you're getting a certain percentage, and it's also how a lot of big firms hedge against their positions, right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at it from that perspective, they've got to be right. They can't be wrong. And there's a lot more people assigned to the fixed income market. And in that case, I'll tell you right now, If they're saying 50 basis points, then I wouldn't bet against them. I really wouldn't,
Well,
because
this
they.
was before these numbers came out, though, so we'll see. But they are, they definitely are. Based on the bond prices, what the rates were recently, they seem to be pricing in that 50 basis points. So maybe we'll have to take a look at more of a look at that over the next couple of days here after the
Yeah,
weekend. Another just interesting tidbit that I saw, Steve, before we move on to some other things:
yeah.
S&P value stocks outperformed the growth sector by 4.9% July through September. I know you were well positioned for that. That's the
Yeah.
largest quarterly outperformance in 2, 3 years. Were you surprised by those numbers that came out?
Well, obviously I invested in it, so not really. Why? Because about a year ago, growth stocks were so overweight, whereas value stocks had not. And as I watched Warren starting to move money away from he was raising cash. That look, there's stocks still out there. There's still investments out there. And I was like, okay, let's go find those values. Let's go find low PE ratio companies that are producing cash, and then start to invest in those. And I did it in a way a little bit differently. I invested in mutual funds. I know that's not always the most popular thing to do, but I did that, and now I'm up, 10, 20, 30% on those. And I also took advantage of Chinese stocks being completely beaten up, and they've had the nicest run. Guess what I've done this week, Hondo? I sold my Chinese ETFs and Chinese mutual funds, averaging between 40% on those. Um, and I didn't have to throw my weight behind some options to do that, right? I just waited a couple of months to get that done. Why?
Absolutely.
Because it's easier. It's look. I don't want to guess this market. There's too many algos right now. Look at options. Those things are going to come off. I think people don't want to hear that, but the world of options will slow down. I was one of the first in the world probably to call that options were going to get super white hot 7 years ago, and now I'm calling it for the opposite to happen. I think options markets are going to start to really slow up. It's probably going to start here in about 4 months, 5 months, as futures start to pick up. I've said this a while that commodities are going to get hot. Guess what? Commodities have gotten hot.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like being right like this, and I know I got a big enough ego, everybody knows that. But that it's just following the money. I like to follow the money, and right now the big money is saying get the hell out of the market. Just ask Warren Buffett. Just ask some of these bigger firms, right? Um, when we first started talking about Bitcoin, I just looked at a video of myself the other day on Schwab saying that they were asking me about the market sell-off in Bitcoin, and at the time Bitcoin was around 15,000. And I said, no, buy both hands. And here we are at 60, almost 62,000, and you know where are we going next, right? I think that's what people are saying now. And I bought, right? I bought because it was weak. That's what you're looking for in the markets. You're not looking for stocks to go continue to higher, right? I mean, I was asked by Nicole on last Wednesday, should the Mag 7, should they continue to buy it? I don't know. Are they high or are they low, right? They're too high for me, right? And I think that's part of the problem right now. And then you're seeing the exacerbations in the options markets, pushing. Oh, we're gonna push it higher because it's worth higher. Right now, if I looked at Nvidia right now, and everybody here knows I love Nvidia, the PE ratio on Nvidia is 51, right? 51. Um, that's a growth stock. So you just said it yourself, Howard, that our growth stocks got beaten out by value stocks, which it did. And Apple, we know now, down to 225 now a share. That stock was, gosh, if you look at it from a daily perspective, I don't know what was the high there on that, 240. I think it's over. I think we're good.
You gave me a great segue here. We didn't talk about this, but I have an article up about Warren Buffett and what he's doing right now, and we're seeing a move, or analysts are seeing a move that he is, he sold more Bank of America yesterday. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
And that he is making a major investment in Japanese stocks by picking up shares in Japan's top banks, shipping companies, and their trading houses. We've talked about this before. I brought it up a couple of months ago that he
Yep.
had a major stake in Japan's top 5 trading houses. And we do need to tell viewers, trading houses there are the equivalent of private equity here. It's like a
Right.
bet on Apollo. It's like a bet on his own company. They are the instruments, the firms that provide everything in venture capital, and own bits and pieces of a lot of the Japanese companies, so it's a pretty good way there. So
And I and
um,
I, I think eventually he's going to build his own Berkshire Hathaway in Japan. I think that's what he's looking to do, right? As he gets older, unfortunately, but he's got teams in place at Berkshire
yeah,
Hathaway in order to handle that. So there's a team that going to Japan to do, yeah. So I think Berkshire Hathaway's next move is to be international. They're already investing internationally, but I'm talking about actually having those private equities you just said in foreign countries all over the world, LATAM as well as
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and as we know, he has a tendency when he likes a company, he'll go back to it a few different times, and he'll continue to acquire like Oxy, and others that we've seen over the year, Apple, and so much. He's now
Yeah.
Sumitomo's top shareholder, so one of the
Oh wow, I
largest
didn't know that.
trading firms
Yeah.
there. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't even tell you I had that article, but you segued right into it. We are 15 minutes away from open here. QQQ up about 1.35 here at 481.59. I will say we're pretty much stuck dead middle in the range of the pre-market trading. We had gotten as high as 484.55, but moving around.
How about taking another lap? The port strike.
Oh yeah, I
They
can't believe I forgot over that. You nailed that, Steve. Said it wouldn't last a week, and it didn't. I got to
three
ask you,
days.
do you think that part of this was blowback? I mean, all of the
Of course,
news.
we're
Yeah,
going to
I
crush
mean, I
the
think
economy.
it was
You're done,
too.
dude. Yeah, yeah. That
I
might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard out of and I support unions too. I think it's they're sometimes they're good things, sometimes they're bad things. But I'll say that this case he was way out of line.
it just the way he said it, the tone and tenor, like you said, it doesn't even give you any. No one could watch him say that he was going to cripple the country, and they didn't understand, and he's throwing f bombs left and right.
Right.
No one's going to look at that as like this is a negotiating tactic. No, this is just crazy talk. I will say what makes me laugh the most out of all this is if you take where they settled, 62% raise over 6 years. They asked for 77. They were offered 50. Add the two up, divide by two, you basically came out where we were. They couldn't have done that without going on strike for 3 days. I
And
like
now,
to,
and now the longshoremen have a bad name, and that's not cool, right?
yeah,
They're hardworking people, and they deserve everything that they're getting. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard for the average American to go, "Oh my, I'm making how much money, and doing what?" But they are hardworking. They work long hours, and they
absolutely.
deserve it, and they keep the economy moving, and that's a good thing, right? But to come out and just say we're going to cripple the U.S. economy, what the hell are they thinking?
Yeah,
I mean,
especially because he was like almost bragging about the people that would lose their jobs as a result. I think that's where it really turned even more. When
even
you're
Joe
fighting
Biden
over
woke up.
money,
I
no
mean,
one cares about the money. But when you say the car dealers are going to go, they're going to close, so those people are going to lose their jobs, and when the malls close and all those people are out of work, I think that
I
you've
think Joe
gone.
Biden didn't even go to the ice cream shop that morning. I mean, when he heard that, he probably
I
stopped and
did
said,
say
"Wait,
a lot of articles
wait,
did
wait a
put
minute."
on that there was a lot of pressure from the White House, of course, put on the conglomerates there to make something happen. It
Right.
makes sense, in election time. What I thought was interesting too, and it came right out of his interview, so it's not surprising to me that the companies put this in there. They had to agree to efficiency gains. They actually had to come
Yeah.
out the union and say we're going to hit the following efficiency gains, because what he put on is, sure, you can use Hartley Taft to bring me back to the table, but we won't push out anything. So I think he shot himself a little bit in the foot there, and that did come back to bite him, because I did see included in the cause was
Well,
that.
they're talking. I think their main concern was that they're getting scared about AI. They're getting scared about efficiency and automation. Then they have every right to, because they are going to lose their jobs over automation and
Yeah,
efficiency,
it's a
but
big part of
not
it.
lose jobs. It's not lose jobs as the ones that are there now. They just won't gain any more in the future, right? So if one leaves, then they'll have another. Because the automation, look, we already see automation in other countries, and it's working very efficiently, and
Especially in ports.
probably
China has that one they built fully automated
right,
down in
fully automated, right,
in
and
Brazil.
yeah,
Um,
and faster, right? I mean, it moves things faster, cleaner, and things don't drop. And
And
You don't
those
have to
are the
worry about
things we do have to
it.
tell you that this contract only gives us time till January 15th for them to iron it out. The other parts, this was just the wages that were agreed to put them back to work. And the use of AI and the use of automation is definitely what has them concerned. When you talk about AI, all the talk is about open AI right now, and because of the valuation they're looking for, and the people who are lining up to try to get in on that offering. Any mention of a company that seems to be getting their little piece of the pie is moving them up. I saw Microsoft, a bunch of others. What do you see in there, Steve?
I mean, 5 years ago, AI was a dirty word. Nobody really understood it, and if they understood it, it was going to change the world. And I'm not going to be a part of it. Today, you don't have a choice. You either join AI or you die. Um, I remember I tell the story all the time when my father said he'll never have a computer in his house, he'll never have internet in his house. Today, if the internet goes down, I'm the first person he calls. Right? Look, the same thing. Right? That the world is moving faster and quicker than most people can handle, and they're scared of it. I wouldn't be scared of it. Embrace it, right? There's not going to be Terminator, and Schwarzenegger's not going to come down and kill everybody. It's literally part of our lives. How we become more efficient with it. And the problem is, I think that people don't really understand AI. They understand internet. Oh, I can see a picture. I can see something from somewhere else in the world. But how will it make it more efficient? Oh, it's because computers running our lives now. That's not necessarily true. It's going to be efficiency. And I think once education comes through about AI in general, then you won't have it. Every other movie on Netflix today now is how the big computer is going to take over, the quantum computer is going to take over our lives, and it's going to send Will Smith and a whole team of robots after us. It's just nonsense, and it's cool. I like the movie; it's good, but look, it's not the way that the world's going, and and that scares people, especially people that are in the labor markets, right?
Sure.
And they're like, wow, we're gonna look. If I were telling anybody right now, if you want to talk about it from the software side. Software developers are probably going to lose the biggest number of jobs. You talk about it from that side, I think the people in the medical field will probably lose a lot of jobs, right? Building drugs. Look at Pfizer and Eli Lilly. They're making drugs now hand over fist faster with less interactions and less problems.
Coding is a big one. Computer
Yeah, I
coding.
mean,
People that are building this are going to be the ones replaced, so to speak. Hey, you hit on a
yeah.
few things there that we got to talk about. There, you have been Mister Segway himself today. Uh, Bitcoin,
Okay.
Netflix. Are you ready to see next Tuesday when they tell us who Satoshi is?
I don't care. I've said this all along. Look, I know that we have the names that we think we know that we think is Hal and Sassman. There's several people. Most people around it have already passed away from the originals. We understand that. No
I'm just
conspiracy
hoping
theories.
this isn't something paid for by Craig Wright, and they come out and say that he's Satoshi.
Well,
That's
I
the
think if they
crap that
do,
I see.
Craig Wright might go to jail. I mean, the
Yeah,
guy. You're right because he's already lost his
because he
behind
doesn't
on it.
care. He just keeps doubling down. And I will,
And Jay
uh,
Woods told you what to
as a
do when
spoiler
you don't
here,
double down.
I have always said that Hal Finney was the main person behind Bitcoin. I've always felt that. I've never met him in person. I have watched and listened to pretty much everything he ever said. And there's just a lot of things that line up on a timeline. Adam Corcoran, for anybody that wants to take a look up Adam Corcoran on X. He gives you about 30 reasons in time frames where Satoshi disappeared, when at times when Hal Finney got found out he had ALS and went through therapy. It was about
Right.
the time that he disappeared, and things happened that really match up to a timeline that could lead you to believe that.
I don't think it's
And
one
again, I don't
person.
think it's going to affect it. What I love is that's where the FOMO starts kicking in, right? People start putting these, when we get mainstream media coverage, it works. But on the other side of that, Steve, I feel like the sky's falling, and I don't know what to do. J.P. Morgan telling people that Bitcoin is an answer. It's a debasement answer, the same as gold. What's going on in the world? If I told you that 2 years ago, what would you have said to me?
I know what I told you. If J.P. Morgan is telling you that Bitcoin is bad, don't buy it. Jamie Dimon says he's going to fire anybody at J.P. Morgan's headquarters. That if anybody's trading it, he will fire them. And within seconds, Jamie Dimon's daughter tells him that, Dad, I have Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Look, and I've said the same thing. I bought hand over fist back then. Around that time, it was Bitcoin was right around $3,000 and $4,000, and you and I were buying Bitcoin for crazy, and we knew where we were going. My thesis is still the same. I don't care about all the things around it. I know what's happening. Look, there's only 21 million Bitcoin. That's it. And if it is Halfpenny and if it is Sassman or any of the, I don't think it's one person, Howard. And I've said this
Yeah.
several times.
Right.
It's a consortium, all right? There were several of them that were talking about the paper. I think Halfpenny might have written the first one, but I think as these guys got together and started talking about it and started to understand it, and how to build this thing, they did it in a way, and they got one guy could have done all of this, right? This to be honest.
Well, and he didn't. I mean, he gave credit. I mean, one
Yeah,
person
I'm saying.
might have written the white paper, or it could have been a combination. But Hal Finney, Sassman, Gavin Anderson, there,
Yeah,
forget Adam Beck. There's 7 to 15 people that were developers that worked on the different parts.
correct. That's
So
right.
I'm with you there. I don't think it matters
Don't
unless
care.
they actually came up and it is somebody that's alive, because then you got to worry about the actual wallet moving. I'm of the
Now,
opinion.
if I were to question all of this, and I were to actually, what would make me scared is who financed this.
Right.
And if I come out to find out that it's North Korea or China or Russia or the United States, the CIA, I mean, you're going to have Aaron Schurz like all over the place, man.
Yeah, I mean those things are all out there, and again, wouldn't surprise me if somebody from the CIA was doing it. I mean, they love cryptography. We know people like Alex that works as your CTO, that's involved in cryptography and these other things, and he'd be the kind of guy that would work on it. These are the people that were the people that were building out cryptography as an answer to a lot of solutions. So I'm going to go 360 here on you, Steve. You and I both enjoy a good pint. I was seeing a trend in the UK that I think we're going to see here, so that's why I'm bringing it up. UK pub chain JT Weatherspoon said that they're now getting 38% of their revenue from food. People are cutting down on their eating. You've talked about this in general as healthier lifestyles come through. And
Yeah.
those pubs in the UK, they were known as just pint pubs. That's what I used to call
Okay,
them.
that's a good question, Howard. I think everybody knows that I'm on the weight loss drug Zepbound right now. Eli Lilly. I've lost a lot of weight, continue to lose weight again. Thank you.
Yep.
And you know what? For the first time in my life, I actually asked Alexa how many calories are in a Corona bottle. I never thought I would ever do that, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't care. I was having a good time, right? But now I'm thinking about that. I've said this. I even talked about it last week. How people are going to restaurants. They're going to fancier restaurants. They're going to better ones. They want to dress up. They want to put their nicer clothes on because they haven't worn them in a while, and they're eating less but better. Like I went to dinner last
Absolutely.
night, and I thought about, oh my gosh, how much bread is in this? And you know what? I just want meat, and I want and instead of getting French fries with my steak, I got salad, and it was just steak and salad. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, a lot less. You're
Yeah,
seeing that
absolutely.
right now.
Healthier, local, organic, all those things move in the right direction. While you were out last week, we talked about Natural
Mm.
Food Group's NFI, I think it is.
And
They
if I,
they had a really nice performance on their earnings reports, and we're seeing more of that. People are buying better stuff. We are about 1 minute from the open here, Steve. I got to ask you, you've had your hand all over Nvidia lately. It's up between yesterday and today over 5%, right back about where that trend line that I had put in and talked about the other day. Do you think we finally break through this trend line today, or do we see it pull back? I think the other thing I want to bring up is that before we get to open here is I do think that a lot of people, a lot of mainstream media telling people not to carry positions over the weekend because of all the stuff going on. Do you think that we see that sell off in the afternoon?
yeah, but I don't think it's because of that.
Here we
For
go.
me, I think it's Rosh Hashanah, right? Isn't it Rosh Hashanah?
It
So
is today's second day.
yeah, yeah, I think that there's a lot going. Okay, you just asked about Nvidia. I'm not touching Nvidia today. As you know, I've been trading it quite nicely over the last few weeks. I don't see it just right now.
There you go. I mean, that no trade is the trade, like we've talked about A lot of times, guys and girls, that is the answer. Seeing the tick here, fairly neutral, not really much going on with it. Right about 150. Here we go, going positive. VIX
If
dropping
anything,
down,
I
down
think I
about
would.
6.5% here. So the VIX took a hit to the downside.
If anything, I think I would be shorting. I will. I'll tell you one thing that I've been dead right on is oil. Uh, Going long oil, and it's just been a machine right now.
Yeah, Brent at 78, WTI at 74.7 here. So they
I
are
think
both up.
SAVE is still halted. Is that correct? Is it
Yeah,
moving
you
yet?
know, Steve, we didn't get we didn't talk about that. I know you know my feeling on it. I know yours. You know, how did the FTC protect the consumer by not allowing that merger to go through? Is
They definitely didn't protect
bankruptcy
me. I'll
better for
tell
the
you that.
consumer? Bankruptcy is better for the consumer?
Yeah,
I
they
have
didn't
trouble
protect
with
me
that.
at all. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that one really bothers me. You know, it goes to like the Gensler with the enforcement, you know, regulation through enforcement in crypto. No, we're not going to let you guys merge and just look at this down at $1.46. This is a stock that hit as high as 17.49 this year, down at
Yeah.
a dollar
There you go.
forty.
Ticks
So
down 300 now. So I've said this. I don't see anything in the market that I like right now.
we
Okay,
could see
stave
some
is.
short covering though today. You know, that would be more what I would think if we do go up. I think part of that's going to be short covering here in the, you know, next hour or two as people.
Stave is open right now,
Yeah, I just
Howard.
opened at $1.50, Steve. So I said $1.70. It just gapped down to $1.50.
I am actually going to buy safe here. I'm going to do something a little bit different than I think everybody's thinking here.
You like to
Um,
play those contrarian bounces, and you know
I
what we see a
do.
lot is the Wall Street bets kids will get this thing back moving. You know, we saw it with
I
Bed
I
Bath and
think the
Beyond
government.
and others.
I think the government will look at this and go, you know what? Maybe we made a mistake here.
Yeah, you think they'll release some news? I mean, again, this is another one to give, you know, the current administration another black eye. That's for sure.
And I'm going to take a nice swing at it. Okay,
Tell you
yeah.
what, we're
So I
seeing pretty positive across the board here.
I I now long about 20,000 shares, so not crazy here. I'm long at 147 and a half.
Okay, there you go. It's at 147 right now. Tesla up 2.4% here, starting to catch a bid. Got a lot of things trying to catch a bid here. PVH up 2.61. Tell you again, Steve, you got out of China in time. I'm seeing some of those stocks moving down
Yeah,
here.
that was obvious. I take my profits and then run like the wind. So yeah.
Ones I'm watching here today on news. JetBlue now up 10.17%. So JetBlue running here on that. You know, you have to assume if Save goes out of business or if now they, as we saw in our Slack channel, some predictions that maybe they get it at a cheaper price here and they let it go through instead of allowing it to go to bankruptcy. So JetBlue taking a nice move up here. And that's got room to run to 730 in my opinion. Same spot it hit last time that news had come out in mid-July. So seeing a nice move up by JetBlue. Earnings report jumper here too. APOG Enterprises. They are a building manufacturer involved in architecture. I wasn't that familiar with them, so I had to look that up this morning. Now up 20.69% here on the open. Seen a few of the companies that got upgrades. CVS had gotten an upgrade from TD Cowen. They moved it up to $85 from $59, trading at $64.65, but up 2.8% here. MTB, which is M&T Bank, big out in the Mid-Atlantic where I am from. Wolf Research put a $210 analyst report on that, up right now about 2.87 here to 177. Lastly, Cisco is the latest company to get in on the OpenAI offering. It looks like they're up about 0.67 here on that news. pretty flat. Market's up a lot for that tick to stay sort of flat, in my opinion. Shows those options are moving it, huh? QQQ now up over a point here, 1.15 up. Small caps really like that news today from the labor. They're up 1.47 here, leading sort of my indices that I keep an eye on this every morning. Steve, Ethereum up 1.45%. I got to say, I saw something, I've seen a lot of people get nervous about Ethereum. It hasn't moved up the way Bitcoin has. I saw someone point out a really good fact. Where is BlackRock building out these funds that they're doing on blockchain? Ethereum. Where are all of these things opening up that are being done by the TradFi, by BNY Mellon, by all these other companies? It's getting done on Ethereum. So I'm going to stick with the fact, as I've always said, it's like Apple. You got to be in Ethereum. You have to be in Ethereum if you agree that a distributed ledger is going to be the future of finance, like many do. AMD chips moving up here, up about 3.16 this morning. ASTS, so again, it looks like cheap money because a lot of the stocks that move up every time we get good news are moving up here. ASTS, the satellite company, up 5.6%. Bank of America up almost 2%. Looks like Warren might have sold something a little too soon. He sold the last few days. That means it was in that 39 range. I think
I don't think Warren cares.
Yep, exactly. Not at all. Berkshire up about 0.31.
I wouldn't be shocked if I saw something come out on sale today. To me,
I think there almost has to be. There with you. I'm with you. 142 right now. JetBlue continuing now 12.83. JetBlue really catching a bid here. If it breaks that 70-30 point, it's going to enter a land it hasn't been in since, the spring.
Shoot, JetBlue could sell off their shares they made today and buy.
Yeah.
If you not merge or just buy them. Yeah. They should have merged.
We've seen Stellantis under so much heat lately. They got an actual upgrade. And we're seeing them up 2% here today. So it's good to see them actually get some good news. CVS, another one that got an upgrade from TD Cowen, up about 3.5% on that news. I did see GE Verona got a downgrade from HSBC. Now, again, with their downgrade, they downgraded it to basically the current price of about $255, but we know that had been a pumper over the last 2 months.
Yeah, it's very quiet. The market's considering. I thought there'd be a little more volatility today, but it is. Yeah, it's kind of quiet today, actually.
It really is, Steve. I'm looking here for anything. I'm just repeating the same numbers, QQQ still up 1.2. It was up 1.2, 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. There's not much movement, like you're saying. Ticks, and that's where the tick's flat, That's sort of there. It's just sort of moving back and forth across hands here. We're not seeing a direct movement one way or the other. I'm looking for anything sort of pumping. Not really seeing that. Not really seeing a pump, just seeing consistent, staying about the same level. Amazon about to go up 3% here, so Amazon is moving up a little bit.
I'm liking this.
I do want to mention, everybody, we have Stephen Flanagan, the FX currency expert, in here at 10 o'clock. Got some questions for him. I know from my side, I want to ask him about some resistance levels I've seen on DXY, although we just blew through that. So I warned him. I said, I have some questions, and I said to him, I'm sure at 8:30 it could blow them right out. It did. Look at that DXY, Steve. We're at 102.51 here, 102.51. That is high. We had seen, and I was going to ask him about the zone that we couldn't break at 101.92. So we definitely broke above that. Now you got to look back at this 103 area that we were in early August. Can we make a run there? So it's a great day to have Steven in to ask him those questions. I'm also going to ask him a little bit about the British pound, which slid this week because Andrew Bailey there, one of their, the governors of the Bank of England, saying that they're ready maybe to cut some rates here. So We'll see what Steven has to say at the top of the hour.
I'm keeping my eye on save here. I might, 148 now.
What are you thinking of targeting there?
Well, the higher of the day is 150 there. That's 149 there.
There we go.
We could, yeah, if I could get, if I could pull out some pennies out of here, I'd be happy.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Even the 3-minute chart, it's got room up towards. Like you said, if you get to the back to the high of the day, 151, could move up to 154 is where it hit. About 8:36 this morning.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows what I'm looking at here, it's the bottom right. I'm going to bring it up a little bit here.
Bitcoin at 61.8 now, so we are seeing some pumping there. Yeah.
And what we're looking here, which what I was saying to Steve is
there's 150 right now on save.
154. Yep, I got it up on the chart here for you, Steve.
Give me a little bit more here, save. There's 151. And I think, Howard, if I'm not mistaken,
don't say it till it's done.
It is done. I'm out. Yeah, look at that.
That makes it 24 right there.
26 now. I did two I didn't even know about. So yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm only counting the ones here on air.
I
know it hurts your feelings to only have 24 straight winners here on air. Sorry there. Didn't mean to hurt your ego, but I got to live with you, so I got to make sure that we keep you everybody else gets to see you only for a couple hours a day. I get you for the rest of the day too.
That's true. You do. Look at that, Howard. I think I might have made a mistake because I think save is undervalued right now.
I like that 154 I had. I was I'm not. I got too many things. I can't. Me. I can't trade and talk. So I have to be on one way.
I've only been doing it for 30 years, so 33 years, so I'm used to it. But I thought 151 was kind of the high there. I like that move there, and of course I was fairly heavy, so. Yeah, take a few dollars out, run, have like the wind. Yep.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with taking profit here. APOG, I got to figure out. Here we go. Let's pull up their news from TradingView on here.
You know what's pushing here up is the 10-year now, 3.948%. You would not expect that on a day, but because they think that maybe the 50 basis points is off the table now, so.
Yeah, it looks like you said, we said fixed income had it the wrong way, so it looks like they are now fixing their mistake maybe now that they think.
Boom, you just hit it, Howard, 154 on save. There you go. You called it.
There you go. I love it.
Dang, 155.
Now it's going to run,
I'll watch it run now.
Yeah, and now I think you got room up to 162, Steve.
Stop.
But I would have been out. I would have called that 154 right there and taken my run. But 10 cents almost on that would have been a hell of a run.
You watched.
I wouldn't have had 20,000 shares though for sure.
The Wall Street Bank Group.
Well, I could have, but then the wife would have asked why there's a second mortgage on the home that just popped up.
I don't think she would ask at that point.
Yeah, no. It wouldn't be. You'd hear someone knocking on the door asking me to leave. So here we go. Copper up about 0.91. So commodities still moving up. Bitcoin can't break that 62 yet. I do think we're going to see some sidewards here. We do have to watch out here on that 3-minute chart. You can see it's getting close. Does it get a double top here? So rejected at 62 would give me a double top from this level right here that it hit about 9 a.m. this morning. So let's see what happens as it approaches that there.
I'm going to throw one out at you that I continue to talk about, and that's Disney. $95 a share now, almost back to 100. I mean, the bounce house is holding steady here. Yeah, 158 on save.
Move up there. Nice move up here this morning.
159 now on save. Look at that.
And Walt Disney just broke through key MA resistance here. Up, and then it got rejected right at it.
And Boeing's back to
200 MA here on the hourly, giving a little bit of resistance to Disney in front of us. These MAs tend to give it a little.
160 now coming up on save. You called that one, Howard. couldn't hold my, but I already had the limit orders in, so I
Listen,
was good.
like we say, especially on something that moves that quick too. What Steve's talking about there is when you make the trade, put in your take profit, put in your stop loss, all at the same time. Make that trade and then
160,
sort of
there
set
it is.
it and
Mm.
forget it. And if you're using the right software, you should be able to have a trailing stop on there so that as it moves up with you. Never knew
One
about those until Steven brought those to my attention one day when I was sitting there moving trades 400 times, and he's asking me why I keep on hitting the keyboard. And he said, "Have you ever heard of something called a trailing stop?" As I was just raising my stop up every 3 seconds on Bitcoin.
161 now on save. So if
Yeah.
those of you who followed us into that one, we don't tell anybody what to buy or sell here, but if you followed us into that one, you're at 162 now. Oof.
Good to see Save moving back up. Hopefully, like we said, there's a better answer for it than, bankruptcy. Tick still, how is everything still moving? I got to figure out what's down.
I'll tell you what's down today, and it's interesting to me. Is gold. Gold is down. Silver is down. It struggles. Silver's struggling at the 32 handle. It just can't seem. Every time it pops over that 32 handle, it gets crushed. People are selling it. I'm always asked all the time, how do you know when to buy and sell gold? It's always the hardest thing, or precious metals. And I say, very simple. Watch TV. What? When you see gold commercials are out, sell your gold. Sell all of it.
Right.
When you don't see commercials on TV, buy gold because it's when they're giving you commercials to, hey, you should buy gold, buy it from us because they're wanting to sell it to you, right? And they're not stupid. So look at that. There's a little bit of selling there now on save, but wow, there's a lot
So,
of selling.
I asked you the question, what's down? What's great is I've pulled up Quasar Markets platform for us
Yeah.
here on my screen. And all I did was take a look at the heat map here and said, wow, I see a lot of red here. So where are we getting hit? P&G, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. I don't know what PM is personally. But, a
Philip
lot of
Morris.
the consumer non-durables getting hit here this
Think about
morning.
it. Well, we've been talking about it, Howard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's food stocks that are fattening. It's cigarettes with Philip Morris. It's bad things for you are going to get hurt. Things that are going to do well we talked about this. I tell you, I don't even know what it's at right now, but cake. I think cake is going to do quite well during this time period. Yeah, look at that,
Boy.
up another 2.5% today. I didn't even look.
Yeah.
I could tell you. You know, thesis trading is exactly where it's at, and I'm telling you right now, people love that stuff. Yeah,
Let me pull up the daily chart there. That actually has a fairly nice look on the daily chart here. Cake, for those that don't know, is the Cheesecake Factory. And you can see here, look at that nice trend. This upper trend line, I love that. You're looking at still room, hell, up to 43 here after making this nice run up. But I'll also point out, you fade back a little bit, you can see there's a lot of room with cake here.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I like this feel to it. Um,
QQQ dropping a little bit here.
I, if we want to look at it from that perspective, too, my goodness, WTI. Um, but if you look at live cattle, I mean, cattle prices are pushing higher too, right? I
How do
mean,
you check
that's
cattle, Steve? That's one I don't have any idea.
just go to futures. You can look up it's LE if those of you don't know out there. And I've been saying that live cattle futures are now. I think they're getting closer on. They're closing in on all-time highs up there. Why
Yeah.
stay? It's very simple. Live cattle and in feeder cattle, obviously, you can do the same thing. But live cattle prices are really high, and if you look at corn prices as well, corn prices are also uh, starting to push back up. May not be as for those of you who don't play the commodities or futures, where you will be eventually. Um, Corn feeds, right? Feeds
Number
humans and
one,
it
number
feeds.
one expense for a cattle farmer.
Yeah, correct. And I'll tell you, the forward curve on live on cattle is really 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 interesting for me. It's just really interesting.
I have some comments there living in sort of cattle farm country here in the southwest of Ohio. What I'm seeing is a big move by farmers beef direct, buying half quarters full cattle. Huge, huge, huge business that I'm seeing more. And I'm seeing it out of my friends in the big cities asking questions about it. So I also see people that are starting to care about where they get their cattle, like you talked about. People are going on these diets. They're going to eat healthier. They're caring about, is it got hormones in it? Is it grain finished? Is it grass finished? All these things that sort of ask there. So it's going to be interesting to watch cattle because I think it's going to be harder for the grocery stores to compete with some of these direct to order. What I'm seeing is farmers that aren't even doing it. They're doing it by the cut. So you want to buy 4 pounds of you know filet mignon, then they'll sell you that through an order, web order.
Yeah,
Nowadays it's so easy to do these shops. So I do think we're seeing a little bit of a move their way, which I think is good. I don't know if most people know, most of the cattle companies in the U.S. aren't owned by U.S. companies. They are
that's correct.
Chinese.
Yes,
They're
that's right.
100% Chinese. They own so much of our farmland now and so much of our
Well,
cattle production.
the biggest owner of land in the United States, and I don't know if anybody's going to be shocked about this, is Bill Gates,
Yep.
right? He's been on a land buying spree. That's what he does. I'll tell you something else you want to look at right now. If you look at that, is cocoa. Cocoa prices
Oh,
are
that's on that one. I know how to look at. I keep
ah,
that here on my list since you've brought it up.
cocoa is still selling off, and I expect even more sell off here. But
You think it's
uh,
going to break below this price? Because this, you can see here, wow, that's a big call by Steve. You can see this historical, um, support that we found back, in May, in June, in August, and even the beginning of September. So, this has been a floor going back all the way to March when it made its, big run up.
the answer is yes. I think it will because look, we called the run up not too long ago because
Yep.
of the weather patterns in the Ivory Coast and the problems on the Ivory Coast, and ever since they've been selling it off. Right, it's been very volatile, which is cocoa usually is not volatile, but it has been volatile. I'll tell you, when you look at it from cocoa from the perspective of holidays coming up, hot chocolate, people eat. They're not going to do it this year. Their weight loss issues again. That people are going to lose. They're looking to lose weight, and chocolate does not help with losing weight. So,
I do have one question for you there, Steve. As someone that is on one of the drugs that is doing it, man, you look great, by the way. You're like
thanks.
half a Steve. You know, do
Little
you
beat.
do you think people though, because I know when I was successful in losing weight, as you know, I was much heavier at one time too. What I did is I still had my cocoa, but it was a treat, and it was only, it was every so often. And by rewarding myself, I was able to stay on my diet. Is that a factor when you're on the drugs as much, or did the drugs sort of take care of that? I don't know, and that's why I'm sort of asking.
Yeah, I mean, drugs. If you look at it from Eli Lilly's side of things, that it curbs two things. Is that bound on what I'm on? Curbs your appetite, meaning you don't want to eat as much or at all in my case. And then it also, whatever food's in your stomach, it takes longer to digest and it slows that system down. So that because usually the food just kind of goes through you pretty fast, and really I don't like to taste anything anymore. It tastes great. I think it. I had dinner last night, and wow, it tastes great.
Yeah.
And I took my time, right? And so I think that's a lot different, right? That we're so used to things. So I think that's why I'm saying that the around this is the quality of food is going to be much better, right? And so live cattle, people are going to eat steak because they eat protein. They got to have protein when they're on this, and you're not going to get it from peanut butter because peanut butter is a little fattening. So
Yep.
all of a sudden, all of these things that are starting to seep into the economy. Think this is happening, and you're seeing Eli Lilly stock holding up. And I've said this a lot of times. It's not going to be as I know a lot of people don't want to take a shot. That doesn't bother me, but they won't take a pill. They'll take a pill, right?
They're
And
gonna have
so
it
they're
soon
working on
enough.
that now.
They're pretty close.
And a lot of people once they're on the shot that they have to be done it for a long time because they get off of it, then they gain the weight back. I don't think it's going to be the case. I think people are going to get on it for a lifetime, and they're going to get a pill in the future, and it'll be like taking a vitamin, and boom, you're gonna. There's not going to be that in the future, which is good.
Well, we saw the huge pump from the biomedical company. Oh man, do I have it on here? It was
Save is
P.
back to 160 again. I mean, there's definitely some basing happening there for sure. Nvidia back to 123.36. Some selling. I mean, I said that this morning. People asked me this morning what this is going to be. Fade it. Fade
Yeah.
everything today. This is not going to be
Tick
one of
going negative here, 300, gone
yeah.
down as low as 554, 608. So we're definitely seeing that, sell off here as we get towards 10 o'clock. We both sort of expected that today. You can see SPY now only up a half a point. QQQ only up 0.82. It was about 1.25 at the highs of the day. Now getting towards the lows of the day on QQQ.
And we're also going to see Canada's PMI, their PMI numbers will come out at 10 o'clock with Canada, right? And why is this a big deal? Because Canada is our biggest trading partner. They want to know if we're still buying their manufactured stuff. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned there. And guess what? Brazil's trade balance comes out at 2 o'clock. Why is that important? Because Brazil's a huge trading partner with us.
Right.
Brazil has cattle. I mean, there's all the things we're talking about all kind of work together. So, yeah.
Amazon up 2.5% here now, so one that is sort of bucking the trend this morning, where others seem to be losing their momentum, and it's losing it too a little bit, but Amazon holding on a little better. Steve, you got your wish list ready for Amazon Day coming up in about 10 days here?
I don't. Amazon doesn't bother me one bit. I buy on Amazon daily. I don't really wait till the sales come in, right? Yesterday I bought a little charger. I guess I could have waited a few days for a few dollars off. For me, my buying habits, like everybody else's, has changed, right? When you go to shops, you buy everything at one time. Today, I don't do that, right? I buy little things at a time, every little bit. Get Amazon Prime. I'm on Amazon Music. For the business, we have AWS. I mean, all these things work, right? And so that's why Amazon does so well. The Bitcoin's slipping here a little bit, 60,000.
Losing a little bit of momentum for sure,
yeah.
As others do. Again, that 61,300 areas which seem to have a little bit of support so far. Copper is moving up a little bit today, 1.09, not that surprising.
Nvidia about to go negative here on the day. I think we called that quite nicely earlier.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that people are selling Nvidia. Look, I'm about to buy another Nvidia card. I mean, you can't live the world without having Nvidia, right? If you don't have a Nvidia video card in your machine, you're pretty much behind, right? How many people are on YouTube and TikTok and everything else? They need that Nvidia chipset. So
absolutely, the gamer is everything you do. Nowadays, Nvidia. I talked about that yesterday a little bit. I was surprised by a remark from the CEO. He actually used the word amazing interest in his Blackwell chip, set. So
I just saw Dan Dulite made a comment in our own Slack, says Save, which is Spirit Airlines, has a market cap of 160 million and property assets of 7 billion. And I would add to that how much they have in liabilities too, right? But that's right. It's a bargain. I think this administration has made a huge failure with Lena Khan. I've said this a million times. She has absolutely been destroying the economy with these things. And you know what? You've got to let these companies merge and acquisitions. It's part of humanity. Now, I get it when you're going to have a Microsoft and an Apple can come together. That's a problem, right? But little companies coming together to make a bigger company, it's not a bad problem, right? You're helping customers.
Yeah, it's not like exactly. It's not like this was telegraphed, the fact that they were going to have to declare bankruptcy if they were unable.
165 now on Save, right? So boom. Those of you who follow 166 now and Save, those of you who followed us into it, I took my profit a little earlier, but I find look at that Nasdaq continue to sell off here. Fade this run is what I've been saying. Nvidia now flatlining a little bit here. I'll tell you who's doing quite well, and I like it, is Charles Schwab, SCHW. Some of the brokerages, that means people are trading. That means volume.
That's a good sign, like we said. Steve, we're at 10 o'clock, and I do see that we have our main currency man on the line here, Stephen Flanagan. We're going to bring him in here and drill him with a bunch of questions. I'm sure you'll go completely off script, Steve, so I'm excited to see what comes up next. Let's get it on. Good morning, Stephen. Welcome to Quasar Markets Live. How you doing today?
Good, doing great. Good morning, Howard and Steve. And don't you just love a day when everybody is leaning on the left side of the ship and there's nobody on the right side of the ship? It's a great time to dip a hook on the other side where the fishing might be better. I mean, this market's well caught. Everybody was leaning to a weakening economy and blah, blah, blah. It's a great ripe trading market. I hear Steve, you're talking, looking to sell the rally here in some of these. I couldn't agree more with you. This is a shift in market sentiment as a new data point enters into all these models.
And what data point is that, Steve Flanagan? I mean, you look at today's numbers with unemployment. Is it, we hear from the Fed 2 years ago that it was all about getting down to 2% inflation. And then, we're getting there. Well, now it's labor. Now it's JOLTS numbers. What is it? What's going on with Fed? Why can't they keep the game in check here?
Steve, they're struggling, I think, to adjust an old school approach of trying to be forward guidance to a new market dynamic, which is computers dominate trading, models dominate trading. And when a new data point, such as a stronger than expected payroll number, comes in, the weighting of these models, and we're talking massive sized models,
Yep,
have to readjust their trading. So they adjust instantaneous. I mean, look at the first price bar on any market you want to pick today at 831. It's an instantaneous adjustment in price. So, I love these markets when they trade like this. You don't want to lean against and try to pick pennies in front of a steamroller.
there you go. Nickels in front of a
My
steamroller.
favorite line. My favorite line is, I use that one all the time. Why you picking
Yep,
up a nickel in front of that steam?
you bet. But, contrarian trading sometimes has a reward like today.
And okay, let's talk about contrarian trading. What's the biggest contrarian trade you see right now in the currency markets?
I like sterling lower. And, the Bank of England Bailey talked about the prospect of more aggressive rate cuts. Keep in mind, we're dealing with an economy. They're presently at 5%, but their economy is now registering 0.5, 0.7% growth. That's kind of like anemic growth if you want to really, we're talking Europe and anemic growth, but in particular in the sterling. But he then highlighted, we're looking for more aggressive rate cuts from the 5% level, joining the rest of the world, basically.
Right.
But he's looking at the prospect of oil. Now, oil's not coming down right now, that's for sure, which means inflation stays elevated, especially within the UK. So I think sterling could return, back down to a fairly substantially lower level of, about, I don't know, 128, 127, 126.
Okay.
Easily
Now
be sterling.
I have it up on the screen, and that was going to be my question. As you know, was that we hit this nice pocket of support back in the mid-September here. Where do you see it getting below that? So you just answered it, coming back to the lows that we saw in August. You have it in that range.
You know, Howard, so much of currencies this year has been what we called range trading.
Yeah.
You know, five big figures, six big figures, and currencies have been boring, while Nvidias and things like that are moving. But I think what you're looking at right now, you had this surge up in sterling. A lot of that surge up in sterling was the UK wasn't going to move rates lower. They were the last ones holding out at 5%. But also, as we talked about on Wednesday with Steve, sterling has been a great proxy to be long versus a Europe euro to be short. So sterling euro sterling has been a huge trade where you want to be long sterling. That's come to pieces now on the comment from Bailey. But
Yeah.
additionally, post Brexit, now you've got a UK economy that's trying to struggle for growth. They
Right.
need to lower rates, but the oil price going up might prevent them from doing just that.
And Steve, I'm just pulling it up, all of the data points next week in the UK, and I'm not seeing any big data points, maybe GDP estimates, but that's about it for next week. So do you see any volatility in the on the pound here?
Steve, that was going to be my conclusion. Is volatility? I think in currencies is been unleashed. I think, today was a broad market economic release, a new data point. But I think you're looking now at a point in time as the models and as people begin to digest, you've got a stronger U.S. economy running at 3+ percent in GDP versus the rest of the world that is not doing so well,
Right.
and that's going to be a long dollar play. And I don't think anybody is positioned for a long dollar play here, especially
Hmm.
given the mantra over the entire year of lower dollar, lower dollar. We talked dollar index that broke that 101.33 point that we
Yeah.
talked
Yeah.
about. I mean, I think the dollar index could be, at a point here where roughly around 102.60, but you could easily see this possibly 103 and a half. And if it breaks beyond there, 104, 105.
What
Um,
Yeah,
catalyst are
you
you
can see
looking
it
for
looks
to
like
make
it's
that
going to
happen?
complete this W pattern right here, like you're
yeah, the
saying, get right
catalyst,
back up.
exactly. The catalyst is just a simple. The U.S. now has growth. Steve, you talked about this dual dynamic with the Fed.
Yep.
Okay, so they've got the 2% inflation, and it looks like they're holding in on growth too, with the unemployment not so bad.
And you just said that, and Feds Goolsby just said this is a superb jobs report. A
There we go.
superb jobs report. Yeah, you just said it. So there you
And
go.
you know, wow, I can't believe because another thing this guy Goolsby, this guy is the one I watch
Right.
because this guy has a lot of market experience. Okay, on the academic side,
Yes.
but in new electronic trading markets. And he understands the
Yeah.
rapid adjustments that markets make. So I
He's worked
watch
in
this guy.
government. He's been there
You mean you
everywhere.
don't
I
like
like.
listening to Janet yelling about technology?
Oh boy.
I can't resist sometimes. She's one of my favorite targets.
I come from a banking background. I'll withhold comment.
Yeah. What do you mean? You know where all her money's hidden that you guys gave her over the years.
Look, Janet Yellen was, inflation was transitory, and then higher for longer. Again, this is the mantra that does not reflect the new dynamic of the market, which adjusts immediately.
That's a
So,
great comment, and it's one of the things I talked about on Wednesday with Agnieszka Wood, who is a trading mindset coach that we have here. And what we've talked about is what professional traders like yourself and Steve know, and what we're trying to get across to the retail traders is you can react to what is happening. Don't make a response until you allow that reaction to sort of settle through. And we saw that, right? We had this huge jump up right as soon as those data points came out this morning. And now, as people actually digest it, what's happening, the market's fading out. So I love when all this stuff works together that we're doing here at Quasar Markets.
I can't believe
Howard,
it, but I'm thinking about buying Nvidia down here.
yeah, I mean, a great point, though, Howard. One of the most prevalent and easiest of the electronic models that so many people have in the marketplace are mean reversion models,
Absolutely.
whether it's on a minute by minute basis, hourly, daily, weekly, but most of them are in highly short term style, which fits right into your retail market trading. And these mean reversion markets, as we've just said, Steve was saying when I was coming on the show, he's talking about NVIDIA. We talked about it, peaking out and dropping off. And that's exactly what a mean reversion model. How many
Right.
times over the last month has it moved X percent and had a retracement? And they can come up with 65, 70% accuracy. Why not trade those models? So, yeah, wait
Absolutely, and
patiently.
we see more and more of that every day. That another one that I always watch that you can tell those algos working is the VWAP. You know, when you
Yeah.
get that, it breaks through a VWAP, and what happens? It blows up. Why? Because of the algos that are taught to buy, that are buying there. Warren Buffett's dropping his Bank of America shares at the VWAP. He's not doing it all in one trade.
Yeah, and to all of us that are now on the sidelines trading, no matter what our experience has been, they are the easiest models in the world to pick up upon, but you've got to have the market data. And that
Absolutely.
costs a lot of money to get that live market
Oh,
data.
I'm aware.
Stephen, coming from JP Morgan, could you expound a little bit more on that? Because I don't think people understand the amount of money that's spent by a JP Morgan to have data that's coming directly from Wall Street through the data center and putting their computers right next to where that stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean, you could go back. Some of the great books that your readers, that your listeners might want to look at would be like Flash Boys. Now that's way back when
Yeah,
electronic
I like
trading
that one.
started. Yeah, and it's all about being the first to see the market print, because we call market prints paids and givens. A paid is when somebody in the market goes mine and buys. A given is when somebody says yours and sells. When they buy and sell, they're trading on a market maker's price. And every time that trade happens, it's a print. You see it on the screen going by on the ticker. And so people study those tickers. Well, if you have that data coming in live, and I mean live, meaning 1 millisecond or even microseconds of a delay, then you can react first. And the first one to react, obviously, if you can be the first one to buy, you're also the first one to sell as the herd comes marching in to go in that direction. So market data is critically important to running a market making room. And the big banks are all market makers. And so they are the ones who kind of make the market data. But that data is then sold in the marketplace, not by the banks. The banks are the ones making the market data, but by some of the venues that people trade through. And
CME,
it is
NYSE. Steve can tell you
expensive.
all of those for sure.
Yeah, it's expensive data because I'll take you know, I used to talk about, if you had a second, I'll just go off,
Yeah.
but I used to say you'd get some young kid graduating, top honors out of one of the top engineering schools, and he sits in his basement with a pair of sandals, hasn't showered in a few days, but he's awesome in his computer programming. And if he's got market data, he can actually sniff out and figure out how to program a computer to trade based on information in the market data, studying the price. And there are so many people that are out there that are very successful at this type of thing. I see
Absolutely.
Steve was just
Steve just did
successful.
something. What'd you do, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just picked up Nvidia while we were talking. I picked up at the bottom at 122. Looks like 122.15. I just sold it at 122.50. It's at 122.60
So
now.
now I give you your 26th win in a row there, Steve, on the air. 26th win. We had a little argument before, Steven, that Big Beat there was taking credit for two he did that weren't on the air. I said only on the air counts.
Okay,
Oh,
I'll
boy.
go in here.
Oh boy.
Look, I think you're right, Steve. I think and of course I know how much data costs
Yeah.
when it comes to. I've been doing this a long time, as you know. But data costs aren't nearly as expensive as people think, right? If it's broken up amongst people to be a part of, in our case, Quasar markets, right? But I think it's more expensive not to have the data, right? Because in the past, I've always said that the difference between the haves and the have-nots is based on how much money you have in the bank. Today, I think it's going to, in the future, I think it's going to be how much data you have, right? How much data are you, and how do you parse that data into making it, like you said, algos in this case. But I think you're going to see even bigger with AI. I mean, are you looking at AI in the currency markets as well?
Absolutely, Steve.
Yeah.
You know, what can I say? Around 2015, I was very actively involved in
Yeah.
the development of AI in FX as far as pricing and hedging. and that's only grown, and it's growing at such a rapid pace right now. Of course, I mean, Steve, if I just take your trade in NVIDIA, let's just isolate
Yeah.
that out. You said, yeah, we wanted to sell early, and then you just came in and said this is a great level to buy. What about if I could take what's in your brain, whatever that ability to make that trading decision, and I could put it into and quantify it through math and into a computer? I mean, that's exactly what you're looking at, and you can do this and back test it on the data.
But I
And
tell you this much, Steve. I'm Mr. AI. I love AI, right? I mean, I talk
yeah,
about it all the time. But the thing that I can't translate into an algo or our trading is psychology. How do I train the AI for the psychology of my trading?
Steve, that's a process of hit and miss, but it's not as hard as you think.
Mm,
Basically, you would run it parallel to your trading. And at it over a period of time, as you correct perhaps some of the FOMO, parts of a model that jumps into the market, as you begin to correct it and give it better parameters in which to trade, you will find that suddenly it starts trading, and you'll look and say, "Wow, I didn't think about that one."
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the thing is that they can get their accuracy rate greater than 65, 70%. I mean, that would be an incredible model.
So then, at what point then do people, as humans, stop trading and let the machines do all the trading constantly?
Yeah, that's going to be probably a generational transfer of
Okay.
power.
Do you think
Yeah, the
within
younger
50
generation who
years?
trusts the computers more than our generation does, for sure, I think there is going to be part of the key to that adoption. I think another thing, Steve, is like, data, data, data. What they'll do is they put in social media, they put in fear and greed. There's enough data points out there to give you sentiment to realize that if you're a contrarian trader by nature, it can follow that. It will look to see what those indicators on a social level are doing, along with data points that we look at, which are price action and sells and buys in order flow.
I hadn't anticipated our conversation to go this route, but I wrote an article about 3 months ago for a big FX publication, and it's out there if you wanted to pick it up. And it's all about market data and
Yeah,
what
we'd love
about,
to send that to us, and we'll put that on social media for
Yeah.
everybody to see.
okay, I will. Um, the point is that what happens when the market data that everybody trusts, and we get into the world, Howard, you just alluded to, what happens when somebody can figure out how to poke in an erroneous piece of market data?
That's the
Remembering,
worry.
remembering that the market making is all model driven and relies on market data for its fuel, just like a car has gasoline as a fuel. Computers have market data as the fuel. And if you somehow can get a third party to publish a market data, an erroneous piece of market data, but significant, and remember, we talked on Wednesday about correlation in markets, and suddenly the gold market moves, and all of a sudden the currency markets now picking up the gold price automatically begin to move their pricing,
Right.
which then automatically moves equity pricing, which automatically moves commodity pricing.
Yeah.
And this whole thing could only take 2 or 3 minutes, but once you begin a correlated trade in one simple direction because of erroneous market data, that affects the pricing that everybody takes in, it could set off a massive
And it has in
what
the
we
crypto
call,
world, Steve. I'm going to have to send you some information about oracles and some of this off-chain data being brought on and how it's been manipulated. There's someone, Avrav Eisenberg, who's going to spend the next 25 years in jail because he manipulated that data on an oracle for Mango Markets, took advantage of it. Like you said, it made the reaction the way it should have. The program worked as it was designed, but he entered in a way and found a loophole that he could manipulate that data that was coming in to cause the reactions, take a loan out using collateral that wasn't worth what it was, and then just walking away from the loan. So, we've seen that as a problem. We've seen actors like North Korea and other places who will take advantage of that. So it's something that does need to be, definitely rooted out, and that is a huge concern, I know, at the regulatory level for those type of electronic trading.
Yep. I mean, you can go back in history, go back to tulip mania, and you can begin to look at overblown markets that then suddenly correct. But really, when you begin to talk about today's modern markets, you really can go back in our lifetime, guys, 1971, when we closed the gold window and we opened up the currency trading, and then you've had variety of systems that have tried to be done by the governments that have all broken and failed. This is the longest lasting one that we're in right now.
Right.
But the system that we trade within is a very new phenomena. Steve, you talked about AI, so let's bring AI back in. Here we are in an AI world that is suddenly expanding at rapid pace of advancement. I mean, we're probably creating the marketplace for the next big problem.
Absolutely.
On
Well, we
that
don't want to
note,
leave on doom and gloom, but
No, no,
we have hit our time. But it is true. It's why it is important for regulators, as much as I rail on our regulators, why it is important and why they have some of the best and brightest minds there. Unfortunately, I think the politicians that get involved, like Mr. Gensler at the top level of that, don't always listen to what their people below them are saying.
yeah, and I'm not a negative guy, so I would never be a gloom and doom. I'm not that. I would say what this means, though, is we are in probably the greatest trading markets that you could ask for, because you've got natural barriers, that simple mean reversion models that come in when it goes too far down or too far up. These are great trading markets that we're in all these current currencies, equities, commodities. They're all great trading markets where you can use rational sense and make some real good trades.
Well, there you go. That's the kind of thing we want to leave on. Steven, or I'm going to let you get the final words in here. I guess that's the final word.
you know what? I think Steve Flanagan said it best. Like these are good markets to trade in, um, and I think you're right. Even with all the AI stuff, human interaction is still the best.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
We'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you so much. And for Quasar Markets Live, make sure to join us a little later on. We've got Scott Bauer from Prosper Trading in to do his market minds, and I'll be back at 2 o'clock to do actually I won't be back at 2 o'clock. I will do that today at 12:30. Crypto Corner's moved up. I have meetings this afternoon, so we're going to move up the Crypto Corner to 12:30 this afternoon.